If you're between the ages of 28 and 35, then this video is for you. This is one of the most transformational and challenging periods in your life. If you're going through it now, then you're most probably are facing some challenges which manifest either in your external reality or internally. If it's internally, then and things from the outside might actually look like everything is okay. You have a great family, you have a job, and things are working out for you. But internally, you might have this sense of loss of identity. Essentially, what happens is you are going through the death of your old self, and yet, as your old self is dying, the new one hasn't been really formed yet. So you might be left with this sense of emptiness or and fear of the future because you really don't see yourself, or you don't know actually who you are. This could also be an external matter. So, for instance, challenges on the outside are pushing you to look within and deeper because you might be facing situations like you cannot find a job that you're most passionate about, or your relationships that you had since your early 20s stop making sense to you, or maybe things that really sparked you or made you feel alive before just have lost their meaning, and they don't make you feel the same way anymore. So I had a whole segment on this transformational period where I talk about how it's defined in different cultures and traditions. You can take a look at that on my YouTube channel. But today I'll be talking more about basically the tips and some very practical exercises that you can start doing that can help you navigate this period. And these are things that I have kind of fished out of the pool of tons of material, and I've chosen these three tips and these three exercises that are super helpful because they helped me basically as I was going through this period, and I'm more at the end last phase of this period right now. So, just to give you a personal example, in my early 20s, I was very much driven by vanity, and I had a super fragile ego. And I was on a mission to prove to everyone how smart I am, how beautiful I am, that I'm better than others. I had this sense of insecurity, probably coming from childhood or whatnot. And this really pushed me to do things that really were not in line my with my true self. Or at that time, I don't think I even knew what my true self is, but I basically pushed myself to get into relationships that were unhealthy for me, just to prove to others that I can do it and I'm worthy, to take certificates and courses and just push myself to get jobs and positions and whatnot, qualifications, just. And this was all done not from the place of love, but from a place of insecurity and proving others my worth. And while there was this period of growth because I was working on myself, developing certain skills, I cannot say that I wasn't. I was growing to a certain extent, but it was unsustainable and it did not really build on one another because it was chaotic and it was more things that I was doing out of this place of insecurity versus love and confidence. So as I was approaching my early 30s, this castle kind of crumbled, and I was left to face myself, so to speak, because grew tired of proving others that I'm worthy, and it just realized that it's not the right way to live. And also this I started as well as I was approaching 30, like 27, 28, I started getting this sense of urgency, the sense of like I'm losing something, I'm wasting my life. And so I was trying to search for this true meaning or purpose. So what are some things that were really helpful, that I actually probably found out a bit later, not necessarily early in my journey. But number one is retrospective exercise. So what I did, essentially, I sat down with a journal and I started writing down some of the experiences and influences of the past decade. So kind of a retrospective of the last 10 years. It included the choices that I made, why I made those choices, how they shaped me, and what have I become as a result of those choices. It is super important, and I'm going to underscore this, not to judge yourself as you're doing this retrospective exercise, because if you start thinking about or regretting the choices that you made, this is actually not going to be helpful. It might trigger some negative feelings and you might start ruminating, and yeah, it's going to have an opposite effect on you. So, but the outcome of this exercise is basically unearthing what type of influences drove you, what were the drivers that motivated you to make certain choices. For instance, if you chose a profession and you followed someone's footsteps or whatever, why did you make that choice? And again, not judging yourself, because you are today who you are as a result of the choices that you made in the last whatever, how many years that you have been alive. But this formative years, um, I think starting from 17 even till 28, you have made a series of choices and they were influenced by someone or something external. And it's important to identify what that is, because as you do that, you will have more clarity. And moving forward, you will not be influenced by things or driven by influences that you have identified, or you will make a conscious decision what those drivers would be moving forward. So that's super important. And I found that very helpful for myself. Number two, an exercise, it's a state of mind, I would say, is total acceptance of your current situation. And I think I have taken this more from Eckhart Tolle, but it has been super helpful because you just let go and you realize that there is really nothing that you can do to change certain things in life. Eventually you will be able to make changes, but as you're going through this period, sometimes it feels like you are so stuck and whatever you do just does not move the needle. So accepting where you're at right now without trying to force certain results or certain outcomes or certain changes, immediate changes, is important. Remember, the things that you have today that you're facing today, these are the product and result of all the experiences and the choices you made over the past decade and more decades. So it cannot be undone within a day. But what you can do, what this period gives you a chance to do, is to make more conscious choices moving forward, accepting the reality of today. So if, let's say, you're in a job that is a dead end job and you feel like you're drowning in it and you're not really understanding why you've chosen it, try not to immediately make a choice to quit the job and find something else. Although in some cases that can also be the answer. But to begin with, accept today as it's your last day and just do whatever you are doing on a regular basis with as much presence as you can. And sometimes when you are putting effort of being conscious and mindful of what you're doing and letting the action be your goal versus having the result be your goal, then things just unfold in a way that at some point things will open up. You will start seeing doors, but it's going to take time, because first, a lesson, I guess, that is being taught here is more to focus on the action and to focus on being present in today versus forcing the outcomes for tomorrow. So if you think about it, acceptance and surrender in this case is kind of a form of prayer, because it means like you're letting go and you're trusting that you are strong enough and you have enough power to deal with whatever will come next. And you are cutting yourself from the future. So that means if you have your mind focused on the future, you're always going to be anxious. So you're cutting that. And then you're also cutting yourself from the past, acknowledging the past, but cutting yourself from it, and not putting your conscious in the past. Because as you're looking at the past and what happened there, you will feel regret and that's inevitable. So number two was really not very much an exercise, more of a practice that you would have to do on a daily basis. And what I'm getting at number three is more of a practical exercise that you can do to help you. As you're going through this period, as I said initially, you are going to feel lots of purpose and you're going to get this panic. At least that's what I had. And then reading various literature, I realized that that's how people usually feel going through this period of time. You will feel this sense of, I need to really find my purpose now, otherwise it's going to be too late. And so people just get into this panic mode of trying to find what is their life goal, which can be add extra anxiety into your life. So it's important to understand that this period that you're going through, the stage of transformation, it is here for a reason. It's here to help you figure out who you are and stripping you away from things that you are not anymore. And actually, if you are not that anymore, you've outgrown this identity, that means that was never you to begin with, if that makes sense. Here, your goal essentially is to try to find who you are and what makes you happy specifically. And to find your purpose here, there are just three basic exercises that I'm going to share with you. And keep in mind, these are not going to help you find your purpose right now, but these are going to you will start planting seeds to unearth some of the things that really make you you. So number one is this 9 lives exercise that I learned from Graham Weaver. He's a Stanford professor, and essentially he talks about sitting down with a journal and thinking about, if you had 9 lives, if you lived in 9 parallel universes, what would you be in each of these universes? For example, for me, I think I would be a CEO in one, a dancer in another one, maybe a doctor, and maybe a lawyer also. Things that you gravitate towards, things that you would want to test out, but don't give it a lot of thought, or don't give it a lot of intellectual thought of what would I be good at, more on an instinctual level. What are you gravitated towards? As you think about this 9 different lives that you would lead, and you're considering the routines that you would go through, if let's say you were a dancer or if you were a lawyer in each, think about, pay attention to your gut. How do you feel as you're thinking about this or that routine? And your gut feeling is going to give you the answer, essentially. So if you feel a spark, if you feel like as you're thinking about your routine, your day, if you were a dancer and you're imagining yourself being a dancer, are you excited? Does it spark something in you? If it does, then probably there is something there to explore. Number two, to unearth kind of the next steps in the direction, is something that I have taken from Robert Greene. He talks about basically the human inclinations, the natural inclinations of a person. So talk to your parents and ask them what you were gravitating towards when you were a kid. What kind of games did you play? What kind of books were interesting for you? What did you, let's say, what movies did you like watching, etc. This will give you an idea of what are some of your natural inclinations and instincts that you're gravitated towards, and maybe you can revive some of those now. Finally, this is more a disclaimer, maybe not necessarily an exercise, but as you're going through this exercises of 9 lives, or thinking about what your natural inclinations are, and you are basically imagining yourself doing certain things, you need to eliminate the factor of fear of failure, meaning that what your mindset should be, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Because we have a lot of limiting beliefs that really make it difficult for us to think about what we actually want, because we block it by saying, well, I don't think this will ever happen. Maybe if you put this limiting beliefs aside, you can get to something that is authentically you, or authentically resonates with you. And that can be helpful. And finally, the last point that I'll make is you need to treat this as a journey of self-discovery. You might start experimenting with little things. Like after doing this exercises, you might feel like, I feel like I might be good at writing. I feel like I enjoy writing. When I start writing something, an article or whatever, I feel in the zone. If you start experimenting with it and just give it some time, go through the process of writing and publishing and do this, kind of establish a sort of routine. Don't put a lot of time into it, but devote some time to some of the things that you found that you could be passionate about, and start seeing where your energy goes. Again, this is something Graham Weaver talks about. Um, if your energy moves as you are doing a certain activity or you are working on something, that's where the magic lies. That's where you need to go. That's the direction you need to take, because you will have boundless, unlimited opportunities if you tap into something that you actually love and you're good at. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. Comment below on which of these tips and exercises you found most useful. I will link some more videos to in the description on, for example, Graham Weaver's best lectures that I found most useful for myself.